You must be there.
I know.
6 o'clock, all right.
One second.
You all set?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Toss.
All right, Board of Health meeting Tuesday, November 27th. It is 6 o'clock in attendance. Board of Health agent Jim Philbrook, Kathleen Walker, Matt Gagner, and myself, John Sanborn. For the agenda tonight, we have a lot of the usual items, ongoing business, Flint Road landfill, the H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, and Eleanor Lane, issues related to not only the landfill, but also the water line construction, Burlingame Road water testing, which we discussed at a couple of the past meetings, a discussion regarding marijuana, department head reports from Jim Philbrook, and if he shows, Dr. Stephen Jones on gas infrastructure and potential issues with that. So why don't we go ahead and get started, I guess, with Flint Road landfill.
Gary Madison did stop in today, just to find out. He did, we did pay the company, mowing. Gary was satisfied with their job and what they have done. He also came in because the United States Department of Agriculture tested 63 Flint Road just because they were chosen, not because there was a landfill there. So when Gary went, they said, well, someone already came to test. Well, I found out it was U.S. Department of Agriculture, just by randomly selecting property in Charlton, selected that property that we were already testing. So I spoke to them. In 4 to 6 months, we'll get the results back of their testing, which Gary already tested, so we already know what the well is. And he said when he was walking out of the house, he looked across the street and didn't even realize that there was a landfill across the street. So that's what happened there. So, but Gary did stop in today to get an update with Burlingame Road for the well sampling. Second notice to 3 more, no replies. So we have, out of 6 people with 2 notices to each home, only 1 person has given us the okay to go forward.
So the next
Do you want to go to the next 3?
yes,
And we'll send out.
my
Could we,
feeling anyway.
could we, I've been looking for that letter and I can't seem to find it. Could I get another copy of it?
Sure.
The original letter, I just want to read it again and see what we said. It
Yeah, it was
wasn't enticing
pretty-
enough to the.
Well, it was pretty short, concise, and
That's
and
right,
I think it,
and that's what I think, it was very direct.
yeah.
Well, we had,
Boom, boom,
we had
and-
Gary look at it
cost.
too from the last letter that we sent out, which was almost mirrored that. We didn't want to scare him and didn't want to put too much.
Right.
But some people just don't open the mail and they see from the town. We had the same issues with H-Foot Road and getting responses. People just, and then later they found out, well, why didn't you mail it to me? Well, we sent you 3 letters. We'll let the mail pile up. So I don't know if we should send it certified.
Certified, maybe. Wouldn't hurt to send certified.
What's the cost for a certified? $7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plenty of postage money. I mean, that was my next thought would be, can we send it certified?
They really get scared.
Then
Yeah,
they
but at least they'll.
At least we know they received it, we get
Yeah.
the green card back.
Yeah,
At least we know that it wasn't missed in the mail.
yeah, yeah.
But if you want it
I think we
certified.
should send it certified.
Okay, so the question now is certified to what? Start with the first 2 or 3 that have not responded, or the last,
the
or
board.
new people, or what?
Start to the first 2 and
And do you
then
have any feelings on it?
I guess my feeling is, and it doesn't really matter, but if you ask my feelings, we have 1.
Mhm.
So if we went to the final 3 and see what, just normal mail without certified, see if we get 2 and 3 out of that, then we're all set. If not, then take it to the certified level. I don't care, it doesn't matter, whatever
Yeah, it
you guys
doesn't
want.
matter.
No,
It
that's-
really
that's
doesn't.
fine with me.
We're just looking for a random sample. I think that what Gary and this board have discussed
Mhm.
was
Sure.
right along those lines, and we're gonna get an area that we think, if there is any potential contamination, it would probably be in those residences.
I could do the old fashioned knock on the door and say, I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, let's see, do what Matt's saying,
Okay.
sounds
Yeah,
reasonable,
sure.
and then we'll go from there.
So we'll do the next 2 on the list, regular mail, and if we don't get a response after a second letter, then we'll send certified to the 2 that didn't respond from the original, back to the beginning,
Okay.
correct?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Give them their chance.
Do you want to send it certified, or you want to not?
No, that, regular mail on the next 2, right?
Regular mail on the next,
Yeah.
Then if we
Next
don't
2.
get anything after a second letter,
go back. Because we only, how
Go
many
back.
residences do we choose now?
12?
8 or 9, I think.
Yeah, 8 or 9 it was.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
and that's
So
where we're
everybody,
at.
once everybody's been given a chance, then we can start again with certified, how's that? Okay.
I don't know how this board feels, but if we still have no success, maybe we go with at least the one that's willing to do it and
Yeah.
start with that.
Oh, sure, if we can't get any responses from anybody, including certified, and I don't want this to drag on and on and on until we're.
Yeah.
No, I thought we'd get
a year
it back
from
pretty
now.
quick and Gary would be done and
Yeah.
we'd be waiting and getting the
Sorry, I'd just
results.
like to see that letter again. I couldn't find it, and I can't remember what it said, but
Pretty sure.
I'll make sure Andrea sends a letter out to all the board.
something.
And it was-
in the letter that shows people.
We made sure that we sent it to Gary, Gary looked at it, he sends out a lot of letters like that.
I mean, I looked at it before you sent it, and it sounded fine to me. I'm
Right.
just second guessing myself.
Yeah, and folks know that there's zero
Yeah, you're
cost to
right.
them, and if there's something found in the well, not only will it not cost them anything for the test, but we will take care of it.
Well, if MTBE comes up on a hit
Well,
there,
then,
we
yeah.
don't, there's none of that at the landfill, so then you got an issue you don't have, you can have up to 69 parts per million, because 70 is the limit, without having to do anything. Because it's not under control, it's not under monitoring, it's not under the DP order, so technically.
I don't know why people don't test me. When we bought the Arts and Activity Center, we didn't do the final test,
I know.
and that's my judgment. And it turned out that it was carcinogens. And both of the people that lived in the house, they were older, and they both had, well, they weren't that old, they were in their 60s, and they both got cancer. And you gotta wonder if they were drinking that water, because they had tested.
Certainly something to think about.
So, I've always been my water tested every year. But I think people should do that.
I agree.
I agree. I said my test, I brought up so many bottles and didn't know what to do with them. I got them.
So anyway, to get back to the landfill mowing, thank you. I got everything, I'm assuming the other two members did
Yeah.
get
I'll
some.
do that.
Okay. It sounded like they did a great job,
Gary said they're excellent.
and they took care of the scalp issues that were on the,
They did. Yes.
yeah, well, the parts of it that were, that's what they called it, that's what,
They were referred to as little areas where they did the brush hog came that they might have bottomed out where the grass was no longer there and it was the liner was, all the soil.
the liner was exposed, so it
They
looked like a
patched
scalp.
those up and resealed it and they netted it, so he said they did a really good job.
Okay. Anything else on Fort Road landfill?
Nope, Gary just stopped in today, saying he'll be doing another round of testing starting next week.
Now, we don't need Gary for anything for the foreseeable future, does he need to come before the board?
You should have Gary here every once in a while to give an update.
It's been a
road,
couple
but
of months.
I think that we did have our embassy, we had a deadline, I went to Gary's, where Gary works, we had to come up with a number of, how much bottled water this town has provided to the residents next to Flint Road. And we had to send a report to the DEP, it's a quarterly report, semi-annual report it was. And Robin has to sign that when we get on the DEP website to log in, and she did that, so we've done that report, he's gonna do another round of testing. Jim Malley was a third-party independent that helped him. Jim Malley is no longer a third-party, and he does not have that license, so he has to get someone else. So we'll just have to compensate for that. We had to pay Jim either way, so but he has to find someone that he feels confident. He wants to make sure the board knows who he's going to work with. He can't be someone from Time Ball and say, boy, I just want to make sure someone's not associated or affiliated with anything around here, so he's choosing wisely.
Well, Gary's not shy. I think if he feels like he needs to come before this board, he'll let you know, and then we can just put him on the agenda.
I talk to him quite often, he checks in, I went to his place of business and spoke to him about that report and stuff, so he stopped by today just to say hi and see what's going on, and he said that he'll be out of the landfill next week and he'll update the board. So maybe if you want him at the meeting on the 18th, we can get him here so we can give an update before winter, send to the board.
Well, ask him if he thinks that he's got
Okay.
enough to present. I don't want to drag him in here for a 30-second update or just to hand over information or.
Yeah, because the 18th of December may be bad for him, I think.
Well, my opinion is, see what he thinks.
Sure.
And if
I'll
he
ask
says,
him
you know,
if
it
he-
would be a good thing, I've got some other things, and
Sure.
I don't mind having him in here, it's a good resource. Is that it for Flint Road?
Yeah, like I said, next week he'll be out there and he'll forward the report, so we've been certainly forwarding all that information, but he'll, I think Gary is, like you said, if there's something he feels that the board, he would request to come to the meeting, but he may, I'll tell him about the 18th
Okay,
and see if he thinks he needs to come before the board.
okay, we'll leave it up to him and you. Thank you. All right, moving on, H-Foot Road, Berry Quarter Road, and Eleanor Lane. Did get a number of correspondence, I'm trying to think, got some other odor complaints between our last meeting and now?
Lots.
Lots, that's right,
Lots.
because we didn't have, okay, so
Lots.
go ahead.
We've had odor complaints, I think John was one of them. And they're supposedly, I'm not sure of the situation, but it's certainly not getting better. As it gets colder, it will get worse, but they're supposedly not operating, so I don't know if that east side of the slope that they had opened is still, they're working it, that's why you're getting the odors, but certainly,
But they're supposed to have it covered.
daily cover, and that notice that you saw from Mary Jude and that notice of violation, daily cover has to be used, they don't want any emissions odors. She gets his reports, we log them in and forward them, she gets them right away, so she's aware of the situation. I haven't spoken to her about it, but certainly, you know, that letter that went out, she doesn't want any orders, but I think that certainly the orders that they're getting were justified, because if you look at them, you know, they were saying 5s, and when they did the inspection, they were 4 noticeable.
One was a
Yeah.
5.
Was
One
this a,
5.
was this a different independent party that went out?
It's just someone else from Burton, because
It was a
she was on
gentleman
vacation.
this
Yeah,
time?
he's one of their civil engineers that works there.
Right,
Yeah.
because I thought, because in the past, some of these were, if the residents said 4 or 5, they were coming back with 2 or maybe 3, and this
Sure.
time it was, you know, right up there, in pretty close proximity to what the residents had said.
Whatever the resident said, they were
Yeah.
right there with it, so.
I just want to point out with those odor response logs, I believe it was Mary Jude was explaining to this board, or I may have seen it in an email from her, but it didn't matter if the third party said it was a 1 or a 5. The acknowledgement of an odor itself
Yep.
was acknowledged. So it didn't really matter in the eyes, like, well, it was only a 1 and it wasn't a 5 or whatnot. A 1 or more was, it
Still
was
no.
confirmed.
Right.
Yep.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's what, she explained that in her last letter, out that it didn't matter. We log every single one of them, because I get them. And we have a spreadsheet, so we update it, DP, make sure they have them all and they compare. So we keep a running spreadsheet on every single complaint.
when was the last one? Before
Today.
Today, oh, it was today, okay. And is there anybody in the room?
Some of them are for Sturbridge,
Okay.
but today I didn't.
Mine was yesterday.
His was yesterday, John was yesterday, today was, might have been Marco Pietro, but I'm not positive.
I was
Called
just
here,
curious.
but I didn't speak to him, he spoke to Andrea.
And this was during the day, John? or was
4
it
a.m.
4 a.m.
Yep. Got up, walked the dog, stunk. Garage stunk, everything
I
stunk.
smell it every day.
And that's what my wife says. She just doesn't have the time to call every day.
I mean, I'll be honest, I've never called. I'm at 102, so the landfill is my backyard.
Yeah.
I have never called. I have 3 young kids. It's very hard to call, but I smell it absolutely every day.
So at 4 in the morning, there's no way in heck that they have that covered from the night before. Something's wrong.
Something's up.
I drive through every time, as much as possible when you get a complaint, I drive through, like you said, I smell it. It
I have to
just-
shut my heat off
Yeah.
in my car because it comes in through my car.
Skunks.
I live in 98, and I have to drive my grandkids home on the weekends. We usually come back up through the landfill. And I, even right through the events, I'm getting odors down by the landfill, okay? I'm wondering if it's, because now there's 2 burners out there now, and I don't know where it's coming from. By the time I get up to my house, I get out of my car and go right outside. I don't smell it there, but I smell it down at the landfill. And imagine it's which way the wind is going at the time.
I
No.
smell it like on Commercial Drive, like if I go
Yeah.
down Commercial Drive onto 169.
Yeah.
I shut it off probably at like the top of that hill, and then I shut it off until, I keep it off until I get into my driveway, because I can even smell it on each foot. And then when I get out of the car, sometimes I smell it, sometimes I don't.
At the base of that hill, Commercial Drive where it goes into 169, is that still Charlton?
No, that's actually
No.
Southbridge.
That's
Southbridge
Southbridge. So,
right there.
Jim, do you know if Southbridge is getting odor complaints?
They have the same complaints that I received, are sent to Andy Pelletier.
But I mean,
Yes,
their residents from
I
169.
can tell
One
you that,
complaint is Southbridge, that's it.
I can tell you that the Kennedy Donovan Center in Southbridge, they have smelled it before. I don't know how often.
They've never called in though.
Yeah, I don't know if they know.
But there's a gentleman on 169, I know who he is, he called and complained, that's the first one I've seen, other than Sturbridge and Charlton, for Southbridge. There's been one other person at the bottom of the hill, next to the tank, but he actually, there was a complaint, because most of them, a lot of them have been Sturbridge residents lately too.
John, George.
In their ACO, they said, I think it was paragraph 8, that any further odors that were verified, which they are through Burton, was gonna result in immediate fines. So can we get a status from Jim McQuaid on, are they working on that? Are they doing anything, or is that just a nothing burger? He should at least tell you that they're working on it, because we have all these complaints that are verified. I mean, they should be, at least be able to tell you, Jim, you know, fines are pending. I mean, I'm sure the residents would like to know.
I will, I'll call Mary Jude tomorrow. She told me to call her directly if I have any issues, so I will.
If you could let me know, that'd be great.
John, do you know if your 4 AM complaint yesterday morning, do you know if somebody came out to?
I told them that they can go in the driveway but not walk the property because the dog would
But we
wake
don't
everybody
know
up.
if anybody came out.
But they came out, according to the,
Okay.
I got the response.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, they
You
came
saw
out.
it. They came out. It was a while after I called.
I don't think they had people before, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It was a while after. He said it was like a 1. I said it was a 3 to 4.
You said one, you said three.
But he said 1, but he was out over an hour later.
It was a little more than, like an hour and 15 minutes
Yeah.
later he was there.
So, I mean, it could have dissipated, but I wasn't home. It could have dissipated by then.
Yeah, the air mass is gonna change within that hour.
Yeah.
Once the sun comes up, I mean.
That may be
everything
why nobody
changes.
else called, because it may have passed on through the neighborhood, but I saw.
Well, you're right, Mary Jude said she would not tolerate it anymore, period.
The ACO says it in there. It's like 1,500 per odor
Yeah.
per day or whatever. I mean, that's peanuts, but the people who
Some-
are calling would like to know if something's being done about it, and
Right,
you're getting
because
fined.
otherwise you're just
Yeah, what's the
aiding and
point?
abetting their poor
Yeah.
management of the landfill.
Sheriff, if I may, also on the landfill issue, there was an issue of, the drop-off station's closed, so they'll be going to Oxford.
So this is residential trash
Residential
from
trash.
Charlton residents who in the past have
bulk.
gone, been able to
Yeah.
go in there.
And bulk also?
In bulk, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I think it's 200 Leicester Street.
Yeah,
in
it's right,
Oxford.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and that, because they're permanently closed on the 24th, they closed, they'll be going to Oxford. So there was they told us it'd give us plenty of notice, well, it was, I don't think a week, and I told Tracy, a week is not a proper notice for letting people, their residents know. So we tried, we posted it everywhere, but certainly it's Oxford now, and the hazardous waste day, household hazardous waste day, I had a meeting with Andy Pelletier. He said they should have honored the December, but it was too late because it was too cold to have it, and the planning wasn't scheduled, so it's canceled, but they're gonna owe them another household hazardous waste day to make up for that one.
And they will
So the
do
next
that.
one will be what, March?
March. Yep.
Okay, so December is,
Yeah, because it wasn't time for them to facilitate, get the company there, and if it's too cold, they won't, the DEP won't allow them to do it. Because everything freezes up, and they're not able to collect things the way they should, so.
it's the last Saturday in December, right? If they're for where to go.
Yeah, but they're not, he's trying to push it, Andy, but I don't think it's going to. But they will be picking up trash in Southbridge for, the agreement has been reached for 5 years, so.
And where are they taking it? Are they taking it to Oxford? That trash or?
No, Casella will pick it up and bring it to wherever they decide to bring it, I'm not sure where it goes.
And also the town, like town hall and schools
Yeah.
within Charlton too.
Not the schools.
Not the schools?
No, they,
No,
oh,
'cause
we
that's-
pay for the
We
schools.
pay for the schools because Dudley Charlton Regional. But the town buildings and stuff and in the agreement, I think I sent a copy to the agreement that Robin had made with
Yeah,
John Casella.
I think I briefly read it.
And
just, I
Charlie
can't
will-
keep it all straight.
Actually, it's
Charlie
a
will
pretty good
still
deal.
be picking up if you're hired.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yes.
for another 5 years, till they're picking up in Southbridge for another 5 years.
Yes, Southbridge, they were done at December, but just like Casella will be staying there, because that's an issue. We don't want the residents or anyone starting to dump TVs and mattresses and all kinds of stuff all over the place. And then it becomes difficult. And then down the end of your road, it's,
Yes.
people decide that they're,
Yep.
it's closed, so guess what? I'm not driving with this thing home. Out the back it goes.
Mhm.
So then I have to call and get rid of it.
And you gotta put up cameras.
Well, I call Jerry, or if I call Southbridge, they'll come and get it, depending where it is.
Has there been, even when the landfill was open, that would still occur?
If it's closed and people don't get there in time at 12, they decide that, hey,
Yeah, but I've seen tires
Oh,
and
yeah.
mattresses and things down there and televisions,
yep,
overtime. Not as often anymore,
you
but
should call me if you see those, because I can get rid of them.
But it's in Southbridge where you see.
Even if it's.
yes, we live down the very end of it. She's right
You
on.
still have to look at it when you drive by, but I could call Andy and Andy will have someone come pick it up. He's the health director in Southbridge.
Okay,
If I let Andy know that a child resident while driving home observed, he'll get someone out there to pick it up. We don't wanna look at that when you drive home, it's just, hey, I live down the street, but don't mind all this trash that's on the side, you don't want that, so it's still.
Okay. Now, I know it's not the purview of this Board of Health, but I know that there were some issues also with Mrs. Whiting, had some issues with the road.
yep.
And I do appreciate you forwarding that to us. It's certainly a dangerous situation. Is there any sort of an update to that?
After the email, I heard from, the chief actually sent over my email to the water commission chair, and he gave me a call and said that they were gonna be patching it up as best they could that day, which they did. By the time I got back that afternoon, it was temporarily patched up. And they seem to have moved all the poles right off the road.
So it's now it's wide enough for 2 vehicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really all that happened as a result of that. And then on the other end, Heather Blakesley sent out somebody to patch up the big hole that was down at the end. They put in just temporary, she said, processed gravel until the temperatures would get a little bit warmer and they could put in the correct patching and repair. But at least it took out that hole.
Is
down
that
at
the
other
area
end.
where vehicles were bottoming out?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We have
And
a
it was full
final,
of water, so you-
final meeting with Time Bond before they shut down for the winter is December 11th at Heather Blakely's office at 9 o'clock. So if you have anything you want me to bring up at this meeting, please email me, send it to me. I will bring all your concerns up right then and there, and I will be addressing the road conditions. They were supposed to make sure that it was good for plowing, and it wasn't gonna, if it collapses, they're gonna have to go back and take care of it, because Jerry's not gonna do it. But they want to certainly make sure that we have a contact person for these issues during the winter if something happens. So if you have any concerns about the road conditions now, or your mailbox is gone, let me know. I sent you a complaint directly to Cassandra Larochelle at Time Bond, and she said she'd work on it right away, so she did. They're very good at saying, hey, you need to, otherwise, someone's gonna get hurt, so they're very aware that you want someone going off the road and a soft shoulder and getting stuck. But if you have anything that you want me to bring up at that meeting, certainly send me an email and I will bring it up at our meeting on the 11th.
Jim, what is your email address, please?
You can have one of my cards right over here.
Because I brought several notes of some things that I'm not knowing to do it that way, but just wanted to bring up a few things tonight.
Are they still digging up?
At the far end, they're now in the process, they put all the lines on the ground to it, and, there's, the blue holes are sticking up in our yards. Okay, so
those
they've
the
gone that
laterals
far.
that go off, is that what they call them, laterals that go off?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
main line and
Yeah.
into somebody's yard?
The stubs, laterals are gonna be connected. They were actually, they were talking about doing some work in the winter, if they could get people enough to do the tie-ins to the house, but I'm not sure if that's gonna be, if they're gonna do that or if they decided not to, but I'll find out on the 11th. If anyone wants to volunteer, if you want me to bring your name up, I will.
They started digging, part of the tie-ins towards the houses
Mhm.
where all the tie-ins are gonna go.
Yep.
Already started digging into yards. I mean, not all the way to the house, but.
The problem is, the agreement is gonna be a little different because it's not gonna be water in them. They're actually going to be tying stuff in with no water that's gonna be put in, so it makes it, they have to have a separate agreement, I think.
Well, I think their plan was just to bring it like to the house or something, and all they're gonna do is.
They wanna do as much as possible, because time to them is money,
Because
so.
if they tie in, I mean, once they tie in, we don't have our wells, so.
No, and that's the whole thing. They're just gonna bring it in, and you have to have the line pressurized, and you have to, so I think they were more doing, if they were able to do some work, they were going to keep their crews going. There's still a lot of tree work that needs to be done, they said, that they may do now, I'm not sure. So, but I'll find out on the 11th, I'll certainly forward the,
The
all
only
the
thing I
information.
wanna bring up on that is, last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't know when it was, but the guy that, where they're gonna be doing the tie-ins through people's yards, the guy's walking around with a video camera, walking through people's yards, not notifying homeowners or anything. I just happened to look out and I see a guy walking on the driveway, walking around across the street from my house. And then I was doing a few things, next thing I know, I see a guy walking by my window, walking around, videotaping the house, videotaping the yard, everything.
that may be the pre-blast survey with the company that's
No.
doing the blast.
that
No,
was-
this is long after they blasted. Yeah.
After the it's for the tie-in, because I went out and talked to the guy, and he says, we're just videotaping the area to see where the tie-ins are going and what we gotta deal with. But my concern, I know they gotta do that, but it would be nice if they notified the homeowners instead of just walking around everyone's property with,
They should have notified you the day before, put a flyer or something in your door and said, we'll
no
be.
one got anything.
Nope.
The guy just pulled up with a truck, got out of the truck with his video camera and started walking through people's yards.
They should be notifying
It's
us about a lot of things that
Yeah.
they're
It
doing.
is, and I know they gotta do it, and I,
It's
you
courtesy,
know,
number one. I
that's
mean,
the only thing, and it'd be courtesy
You're
if
walking
they just.
somebody's yard, aren't you trespassing?
Technically, yeah.
So I mean, even like, you know, the equipment that they're parking on people's yards.
Oh, I brought that up to them.
You know, they did not, you know, granted where they park something in my property, it's not affecting any green grass that I mow, but it's just a principal thing that I see all these people with everything's stuck on their yards and like, they didn't knock on my door and ask me, do you mind if we put this here?
Well, I did ask them about that, because they were working right at the top of my driveway, and I had my daughter out at the bus stop. And I did ask them, and I said, don't you have a staging area? And before he could even answer, I was like, actually, you know what, I know that you have a staging
They do.
area. And I said, so why is your bulldozer, or whatever it is, parked on my property? Nobody
Front
asked
end,
me.
yeah.
All you have to do, I don't have a problem with it, but when you don't ask permission to park on my property, I do have a problem with it. And, I mean, they didn't really say much to me after I told them that I know that they have a staging area.
They do.
They do, I know that they do, and the fact that they parked it on our property without asking, you know, it bothers us. I mean, they took down, they destroyed our property, destroyed it.
Well, if that bulldozer parks on your property and it sinks down this much, and they're gonna repair your lawn, I hope so.
Oh, they're gonna do some repairs, don't,
Hey, Jim, is that are you keeping a list of the damage that they're doing?
Yes. We have a running list of all the damages that's reported and what they report and what, you know, what is on site and what they recognize as damage. And we go over at each meeting, each property damage and what they've done. And if they corrected it, have they knocked on the door to notify everyone? So I will bring that up.
Do
Oh.
we need to put all that in an email to you to keep that as a list?
Anything you
I
want me
mean,
to
I've been
bring up?
going out and
Yep.
taking pictures every day because they came by, besides taking down the mailbox, they destroyed the stone wall that was in front of my house. And I asked them, they said, well, we'll be taking care of that, you know, supposedly in the spring. But how do I know that that's something they're telling us? How can we actually keep a record of it somewhere, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, the record is if you notify, like someone like myself and I notify Time Bond, that it's through email, I notify her that it was property damage, whatever, or if you email her, they're pretty good at logging it. We had 2 pages of people, mailboxes, walls, the stuff that was down, and we Ty Bond said, you need to knock on all these doors and you need to make sure you speak to every single one.
That's all
So-
right.
I don't know a single person that was notified.
They did some damage to, I've got a little base around my mailbox. They were kind of one day when they were working in the area while they were drilling, that they could remove my mailbox off, so they wouldn't knock it down. But then, after the fact, I came home one day and my bricks that I had around with some stone inside, I've got bricks missing. I have bricks that now upside down, I can tell that because I had put some of the cement adhesive on there just to hold them in place. Now I've got things upside down, so they never had the decency to tell me that they did this.
They took our mailbox down as well. Again, I didn't report it. And I asked them about it, and they did replace it. The old mailbox is still just lying on the side of the road. They did nothing to dispose of it, didn't ask us, didn't do anything. But, I mean, they did give us a new mailbox.
Well,
Please.
I haven't gotten a new mailbox.
If you
They
have
told me
issues
they
you
were
want me to
gonna
bring up, this is
replace-
the forum. During the meeting with Ty and Bond, I will bring up all these issues and hand them to them, and they're gonna have to correct them because they're responsible for any of the damage that they have.
Do
Um,
it by
They told me they were gonna
I will.
replace mine,
'Cause
and
I'll
all
show-
they
I'll-
did was
I have took pictures
duct
of
tape
mine.
it together.
Yeah.
I take pictures daily.
You should, but like I said, it's really not, but I will, on behalf of everyone presented at a meeting, on your behalf, that needs to be corrected, so. Sure.
Jim, all that being said, I know they said they're gonna fix and everything, but I also know the town owns 10 feet from both sides of the road,
15, I think.
or 15. So that being said, where they are parking the equipment and wiping out walls and digging up yards, that's all within that 10, 15 feet. Are they gonna turn around and say, hey, that's the town's, we don't
No.
have to touch
The
it?
town of Charlton is not gonna tolerate, nor Jerry, nor any Mr. Peter Bory or myself, or anyone from Charlton, that they're supposed to bring that back to the way they found it, and we're not gonna settle for
I
anything
think that's
less.
part of the reason why they're parking equipment, because even though it's in front of our houses, we technically don't own. I always knew it was at least 10 feet, so I figured they can do what they want, because technically we don't own it, the town does.
Right.
But because of that, are they gonna say, hey, the town owns it, so we don't have to fix
Yeah,
it?
but you've been maintaining it for how many years? I mean, I've got the same issue. Mine goes
Right.
back probably 15 feet.
But I
I've
didn't
got a
know if
big
this is
stone.
gonna be a loophole or a technicality,
I
because
don't
they
think
say
so.
people's
No.
properties it will fix, but technically that's not your property, so we're not gonna.
The town of Charlton, and any department head that's at this meeting, is never going to allow them to get away from bringing that back up to even making things better. They're not gonna allow them out of there to do anything, and we're gonna make sure, because we have a large contingent of representation at these meetings, and we're very verbal about it. It's not gonna cost the town of Charlton anything, or the residents, and you're gonna fix everything that's there, so. And believe it, Heather Blakely is very, very open to say, no way, and she's in charge over there, and no, you're gonna fix everything. And she said at the last meeting, let's get these things fixed, so.
I can tell you why they're not bringing it down to the staging area. The guy told me why. He said, because we don't want to drive it a mile down the road to the
Yeah.
staging area. That's what he said.
Yeah, well, those things, that's the thing, those things are hard to move, but still, it's the principle. that,
Yeah.
You know, it
They
doesn't,
could
doesn't
still
excuse it,
ask.
doesn't excuse it.
But
Yeah,
please
we
send me
could
these
Yep.
concerns, I will print them out, and I will bring them to my meeting on the 11th in Southbridge at the DPW. Strictly, this will be the last meeting for the winter, so this is the time that you need to get them there, and I will bring up every single issue.
Do you know anything about, I had a conversation with Jerry yesterday, because I've called 3 times already for the ice on Berry Corner. The absolute worst that's been in town 16 years now was last Friday. I know there's a lot of water running off of there, but it's like I called, and I ended up calling the highway department yesterday. I had a chat with Jerry about 20 minutes long. In no uncertain terms, he told me that on Friday, he said he pulled their permit for any further installation of the piping yet. They can do the temporary, the lines, the crossovers, whatever you wanna call them, but he told me he pulled their permit, that, they cannot do any more pipe installation.
I'm not sure if Jerry, what Jerry did, or I don't speak for Jerry, I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to him. He does not attend the meetings.
Mhm.
He does once in a while, but he's very busy.
Yeah?
Jerry is there, being an advocate for the residents there, but he's not attended the last couple of meetings, but certainly, I didn't hear that, and nor do I know if Jerry has that type of authority to take away the
Because I
permit.
noticed when I came up from work tonight and coming up Berry Corner, across by number 29 Berry Corner, they had installed one of those little gravel pits with the piping underground, and just up above that now, there is some granite rock in there
Remember, this is-
to try and
yeah.
direct the water.
This isn't a permit, this is an agreement
Yeah.
between the DEP, the town of Charlton, and Southbridge and Casella. So there's a legal document of what they need to do, and the bid specs are out and stuff, but if Jerry tells them to do something, that these are his roads.
Yeah.
But I'll speak to, hopefully Jerry attends the December 11th meeting, because he's a strong voice, because he maintains the roads.
Yeah, yes.
And they're gonna have to help him out if they're not maintained, or they've offered to help Jerry in the event that there's something that they caused that they would come and correct.
Mhm.
So,
Didn't this come up at the last meeting? We were talking
Yeah.
about the ice there.
there's been a lot of rain, so
Yes.
water's running out.
Yeah.
Places that normally didn't, I've seen people's backyards just full of water.
Across from 29, there's that banking that goes up into the back up there. When there's heavy rains, water used to come down there, but now it's coming from the top of the hill down and gets to a certain point and then is deflected across the road, and it just made.
We had a discussion on how to collect that and best direct it.
Yeah.
Peter Boria mentioned some things on behalf of Jerry and his part, how they could better collect that rain. So we're supposed to make some changes,
Yes.
especially before the winter. But that meeting, please get me any of your concerns so I can get them addressed before. Hopefully, we don't have any more cold weather or rain, but who knows, it could get snow next week, so it'd be very difficult to make any of the corrections.
Okay.
Kathleen?
Yeah, back to the issue of footage that you don't own, that the town owns. I wonder if adverse possession would apply in that case. In other words, adverse possession is when somebody openly and notoriously uses, they use those words, uses the land after 20 years.
20 years? Oh, okay.
Yeah, 20 years, I think it is. It becomes theirs unless they've been notified. So I don't know if that would apply to town land or not, but it does apply, for instance, if one of us lived next to the other one and the other one was using land to go across for 20 years, then they would have